So let's just as we usually do, just start to bring our awareness. Get yourself seated comfortably in your cushion or chair. Start to bring our awareness to the breath and the body. It's how we start to settle down the mind, just bringing it in from the sense doors, the busyness of the sense doors of the day, into the body and the breath. Just breathing in deeply through the whole body and exhaling any tension, stress, just a couple of big deep breaths in and out. And then let's just do the 9-round breathing to settle the mind, or you can do the purification of the, visualization, just breathing in white light and exhaling any anxiety, stress, fear, just challenging the body and mind in the form of clouds or smoke, just letting that visualization ride on the breath. Or we can do the 9-round breathing as we've normally done in the last few weeks. So whatever works better for you, just to clarify the mind, bring ourselves in a little bit more. And for a couple of minutes, just being with that spaciousness that we feel from that, just that sort of purification, breathing purification exercise. Just see what space it brings in the body and mind. Allow that spaciousness and that light breath feeling just to spread throughout your whole body, from the crown all the way down to the toes, and at the same time, allowing the space and the breath just to open up the body, and be in this kind of upright position, this center, kind of centralizing our body in a position where we can meditate, where the mind's clear. A little bit feeling like the center of the body is like an arrow shooting up to the crown. Eyes, mouth, everything's soft through breath and awareness, through the neck, shoulders. Breathe in through the stomach and exhale any tightness, tension. in that area. Soften the belly. So we're going to do 5 minutes of concentration meditation, placement meditation. But if our mind's still a bit sluggish, we can first of all do this exercise of, feeling that central channel in the body, kind of like a clear tube of light, just below the navel all the way up to the crown, or just imagining that it's there, about the thickness of a, piece of bamboo. Kind of very firm but flexible, soft made of light. It's the main pillar that we need to just start to feel and connect to in our kind of centralize as our body for meditation. If we start to feel a little bit the energy of that central channel, or sort of midpoint in the body, the subtle body. So just around the navel area, just below, inside that central channel, we imagine this like seed or bean. It's still made of light, but inside of it is our subtle consciousness, our mind. Let's just place your awareness there for a moment. Imagine all our awareness, our mind, our consciousness is just inside that little seed. It's got two shells and it's almost like a pistachio nut or something, but it's smaller. And inside this central channel, that again is like a sort of arrow going all the way up, straight up to the crown. So our subtle consciousness is enveloped inside that seed. So as we bring the seed up, we imagine it kind of shoots up through the central channel and opens up, the seed opens up and our consciousness merges with the sky or with space. So as our object of, once we do that, then we're going to settle for 5 minutes and either make the object of your concentration that space awareness, the clarity and spaciousness of the mind, seeing thoughts just traveling past like clouds. Imagine they're just clouds and go back to the spacious quality of the mind. Or after we've done that exercise, we can simply go to the breathing, if that's our object, and be with the inhalation and exhalation at the tip of the nostrils or at the abdomen, whichever place you think's kind of easier for you to kind of bring the mind back and place it on the object. What object is working a little bit better for your mind. So let's bring the awareness up. And it pops out. This is one of the exercises done from the great yogis and pandits, to kind of refresh the mind and bring our mind back to whatever object we're on. So I say the object can be the sky, that awareness itself that we absorb into as the consciousness merges with sky and space, or it can be the breath at the level of the nostrils or the abdomen. So let's do this for 5 minutes. So let's just relax the mind a little bit. We're not completely coming out of meditation, but just step back a little bit from the object. Just adjust the body slightly. If we've slouched over a little bit or feel any tightness, just go through the body, a little bit of scan, checking up and just straightening up the body again. Breathe in deeply a couple of times. If we feel kind of overwhelmed by the thoughts through doing that meditation, sometimes we just get overloaded with thoughts, you know. It feels like that simply because we're being aware of what's going on, you know, we're more aware. We're not engrossed in the thoughts, we're just trying to step back from them a little bit by placing the mind on a different object. So it's more just like we feel the weight of our thoughts when we have this process. It's not that they're any heavier during this meditation, we just start to feel the weight of them in the mind and the kind of grasping that we have at thoughts, that habitual grasping. It's good just to see that, you know, to be aware in a kind way with ourselves, to just look at, you know, observe what's going on in the mind. That's meditation. Checking out our mind. Gradually trying to train it so that we eventually have some more level of control over our thoughts and emotions, step by step. So on a slightly deeper level, you know, it's very good, even myself after quite some years of practice, I have to always remind myself when laziness comes in that I have Buddha nature. All beings have Buddha nature. All beings have this incredible potential for not just transforming our regular day-to-day emotions, but also gradually developing our mind to become like bodhisattvas, you know, holy beings. It's hard, sometimes it's hard to imagine that we can actually overcome some of the negative parts of our mind, you know, the more challenging parts. But my mind is a causative phenomena. Firstly, it changes moment by moment, second by second. Isn't that true? You know, we see that when we do this type of meditation. Constantly a flux and change of thoughts, feelings, emotions. And because its nature's causative, it means that we can change the quality of our mind, the quality of our emotions. This is the nature of Buddha nature, you know. It's changeable, it's pliable, it's causative. So just take a moment to feel, do we feel some confidence that we can really change our mind, you know, into something positive, more and more positive, into some of these qualities that we read about, you know, compassion, wisdom, realizing emptiness, renunciation. Do we feel it's possible? Just take a moment to check that out for yourself, you know, how much confidence do we feel about that? So as Lama Yeshe, the quote that I shared last week with Lama Yeshe says, you know, when we take refuge and we do the refuge prayer, you know, we're taking refuge also in our innate potential. We have to try and more deeply connect with that and feel that the mind has this power to change, you know. It has this innate ability for transformation. So the more we feel that, the more confidence we get in that through listening to teachings, reflecting, meditating, the more energy we're going to have for practice. Not so much expectation, but just energy, determination to continue to work on our mind. The more we feel that change is possible within us, the more we recognise and start to feel, get a sense of our Buddha nature. This clarity, positivity that's our innate, innate within us, you know. We just need to get more habituated with it. That's what meditation is, gom, habituation. So yes, there's the outside Buddha, you know, our gurus, our Buddhas, teachers. There's the Dharma teachings that we take refuge in as well. That we do now, we're taking refuge now by listening and reflecting on teachings. And there's the Sangha, Supreme Assembly, who support us, who guide us, who kind of nurture us like good friends, you know, good companions on the path. So we need all that. We need the outer refuge. And as we chant the refuge prayer together, we try to feel like, but yeah, I also have this inner potential. It's not everything out there, you know, it's within me. And there's some kind of blessing that comes when we do these kind of sacred prayers that have come from generations of holy beings, you know, who heard these prayers. Some of these chants have come from, you know, the realm, enlightened realms, you know, pure lands, through great yogis. They heard the prayers being chanted by dakinis, great practitioners, you know, and they shared them with us. So they have this potency, this blessing. So just by chanting them, it sort of wakes up our mind, you know, wakes up that Buddha potential. The subtle wind in mind that's kind of sleeping when we're overly absorbed in sense objects, overly absorbed in our thoughts or anything going through the sense doors. So it has this power to wake up the mind, these chants, these prayers. And the more kind of we generate some faith and conviction in the prayers and the practice, the more that thread of connection we start to feel with the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, with our teachers, with the lineage of practitioners. You know, they're all helping us. We just want to connect with that help, that blessing. So that's kind of what we're doing with these prayers here, connecting and receiving their nourishment and support. So how wonderful it is, you know, we have this Buddha potential, we have this Buddha nature. It's amazing, amazing. Not just me, but every living being, no matter how thick they appear, no matter how dull they appear, how angry they appear, each one has the potential to change, just like me. So tonight we're going to do this, just a very short Tara practice to start the session. Here we can see this image of Tara. She's called Tara the Liberator. She liberates us from fears, from obstacles, from our own stuff, you know, temporary stuff, and the more deeper problems in the mind of karma and delusion. She has this kind of liberating quality. And female aspect, you know, most of the Buddhas appear in the more male aspect. She appears in the female aspect. She vowed to always come back as a practitioner Until she achieved the state of Tarahood, she vowed to always come back as a female to benefit sentient beings. So we try to feel, you know, just gradually her presence in the space before us. Even though we can't get the visualization, it's good just to look at the image and then just whatever we remember, we just feel that appears, you know, through our memory. The multicolored lotus. So she springs from, you know, her whole body springs from the lotus in the moon cushion. Everything, the whole image is very fragrant and soft. And her body's like 16-year-old, you know, incredibly youthful and gone beyond aging and death. So again, once our Buddha nature is fully developed, there's no death, there's no rebirth, there's no sickness. It's amazing, but we can go beyond these states we are in right now, you know, liberate ourselves from all fear, from all delusion. That's what she manifests, that freedom. So we feel that her body, her quality is our, you know, what our resultant Buddha nature will be, you know, fully developed, having all those qualities and realizations. So we take refuge in that, you know, our future state of Buddhahood, you know, that's where we're going. That's where we're traveling to. And we're asking Tara for all her help and protection, especially for us in the West, we need a lot of inspiration. So we feel all beings around us, family, friends. We try to feel that we're taking refuge with and on behalf of all beings who are like me, undeveloped, but traversing the path, you know, looking towards Buddhahood, step by step. So we chant the prayer, feeling she's completely present with us. Our eyes, as Buddha mind does, it gazes upon me, but can simultaneously gaze upon all sentient beings. But we do feel she's 100% completely with us right now, and also 100% completely with all beings. So we chant the refuge prayer. We'll just do a slow chant, you know, just feeling, we'll just do one chant in Tibetan, two in English. So that just feeling like right now, yeah, I'm taking refuge in the outer Tara to achieve the inner Tara, my own inner Tara, my own inner Buddhahood, my own inner freedom from and liberation to karma and delusion, suffering and the causes of suffering, you know, that possibility, that potential that exists within me, taking refuge in that, and the outer resultant state of Tara. Sangye choda sogi choy namla janju bardu dagni kyab suchi dagi chin sogi be sonamgi Drola penjir sange drupar shok. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit from giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Try to affirm that in your mind, wherever we're comfortable with, make that affirmation. And then I mentioned last week one of the perfections that we work on, we gather, we collect these perfections in our life as part of our spiritual practice is the perfection of generosity. It's not so much giving everything away, but it's developing this mind that it is always giving, this bountiless giving, It doesn't stop, there's no resistance, there's no miserliness. So we train and develop in that. One way, easy way is to offer a mandala, a depiction, everything in the universe, our own enjoyments, our own attachments, things that we cling to, friends, family, food, possessions, money. We try just to imagine and visualize that and offer it to the heart of Tara. It starts to train us to become more generous, to kind of let go, release the clinging to certain attachments we have in our life, So we just start by visualizing, offering them to the Buddhas, the outside Buddha and our inner Buddha nature, our inner practice of generosity. So we'll chant in Tibetan, then we'll do in English. Oi saji boyi jushimeto tram ri rablingje ye de gyambadi sange jindu me te uwarye drogen nam dag shinga Chubar Shog, this ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine it as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Yiram Guru Ratna Mandala Gamneya Dayami. So we offer to the heart of Tara. Imagine she receives all our offerings, all her attachments, all the enjoyments. She's really happy. And then we just ask Tara to please grant us blessings to develop our heart and mind on the spiritual path, give us energy and inspiration for that. Then we just recite a few mantras together, visualizing light coming for Tara, entering through her crown, just purifying her whole being and receiving that liberating quality, the mantra, inherent in the mantra, inherent in the sound. We just feel that's streaming forth for Tara, all her blessings of body, speech and mind, entering us and just filling us up with her joyous, light energy. Om Dari Du Dari Du Re Soha. 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 And before we finish, just take a moment to be in the energy of the mantra. In the energy and the innate quality of the mantra, there is no I. How we perceive it right now. There is no me and you. This and that. Here and there. the deepest quality of the mantra, the deepest quality of our innate nature is like space. And this is me. Space combined with wisdom and filled with compassion for all beings. It's my ultimate nature. When I'm totally unified with the aspect of Tara, the space of Tara, this is my experience, beyond duality. Okay. So even though, we might be totally distracted, totally tired, I don't know how much you were able to keep up with the meditation. It's late, but at the end, it's very good, when we finish our meditation, as we go through the modules, we'll get more insight into, certainly the next module's presenting the past. So you're going to get a little bit hint of emptiness, This is where we want to go. This is the final, somewhere over there, in the distance. But it's there. Our mind has that potential. That's our mind's nature, is emptiness. Our mind's nature is deep, infinite bliss, compassion for all beings, So when we do this type of meditation, no matter how close we feel for that or how far away we feel for that, oh gosh, my meditation's a disaster, but we just remind ourselves, this was Lama Zopa Rinpoche's style, just remind ourselves, this is our ultimate nature. My ultimate nature is emptiness. My ultimate nature is compassion. And it always creates this positive imprint on the mind. What we're trying to do with meditation is not necessarily, I need to get the experience, I need to be in emptiness. Yes, we do. But right now, every meditation's like planting seeds, planting imprints, seeds. And eventually you have seeds and then we're nourishing them, we're watering them, we're taking care of them, we're continuing to tend the soil. And all of a sudden some sprout comes up and we get an experience, But we're not trying to get these, incredible experiences with every meditation. We just be happy that we're doing the practice, that we're planting seeds. That's important, to just sort of gradually sort of develop a contentment that we were able to sit and meditate for a certain amount of time every day or however we committed to, And then sometimes when you're least expecting it, some kind of experience happens and you're like, wow, I didn't expect that. And it's really nice, So expectation can be a big sort of obstacle in the path, but what's best is just like step by step, just doing a practice day in, day out, and it just gradually builds up this kind of, strength of the mind, quality of the mind that gradually chips away our delusions and opens up more and more contentment and happiness in the mind. So last week, we did mantra because we talked about, more devotional types meditations or using a deity, a mantra and prayers. So that's why we started this session with a little bit placement meditation, which generally is a better meditation to do in the morning. It's a bit harder to do at night, when we've had a busy day. So we started a bit like that. And then the idea was sort of guiding you through a little bit of thinking about refuge and Buddha nature. So that was a little bit analytical. And then we finished with doing this kind of, more inspirational type meditation of taking refuge and doing some mantra, So that combination, however you want to do it, is very good if you can do all three. If you feel a connection to do all three, they each have a slightly different purpose and bring up great richness to the mind, if you can do a little bit of all three in your meditation. So as Lama says here, so that's what I was saying about the Tara mantra, what mantra embodied in the sound and the syllables, there's some sort of quality in there. Sanskrit has this power, it's a powerful language, And it has this, within the mantra, there's this quality that just by chanting, and of course, if we have kind of some faith, some seed of faith, some feeling of faith or openness along with the mantra, then some kind of experience can come. It can touch you in a different way. It can touch the mind, the subtle wind and mind, you know, because we have consciousness, but it rides on a subtle wind. So when we chant mantra, we're using wind energy, you know, and then along with the mind of kind of devotion or, you know, compassion or, you know, wisdom, whatever kind of other feeling is positive emotions going on with the mind, as we chant the mantra, then that combination can bring about some experience, you know, just that, you know, by chanting mantra. So that's why my personal experience is if I, you know, get upset with something or somebody or myself, if I just go away and chant some mantra, settles my mind down. That's just of course, that's my own karma, you know. So that's what I personally feel like when I'm having a difficult day or, you know, or maybe my mind's foggy or whatever, or, you know, I'm having challenges. If I just go, if I chant some mantra, it really helps and lifts up my mind or helps to subdue some, you know, kind of uncomfortable feelings or emotions that are coming up. So just again, in a nutshell, we have the three sort of main syllables that you'll see in a lot of the practices. So during the practice day that we're going to have a week on Saturday, is it Saturday or Sunday? Can't remember. Anyway, one, sorry, I don't remember the day, Saturday or Sunday, but we're having it not this weekend, but next. We have, you know, often what you see with these practices is maybe we get a wee bit more interested in doing a Chenrezig practice or a medicine Buddha. Often you'll see the Om at the forehead of these deities, the A at the throat, and the Hum at the heart. So again, embodied in these syllables is the essence of, as it says here, Om. Even the sound Om within it has these three syllables, O, A, Om. You know, so actually Om itself, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche is saying, embodies the qualities of all the qualities of the Buddha. Vajra holy body means all the qualities of the Buddha's body. Vajra holy speech means all the qualities of the Buddha's speech. Holy mind means all the qualities of the Buddha's mind. So even embodied in the Om, a lot of mantras start with Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Tari Tutari, because within even the Om itself is embodied all the qualities of that particular deity or being. So Om's got itself is very powerful. I see there's a chat, but I'll answer that after this slide if there's a question. But then also these three syllables, Om Ah Hum, within them, Om generally is depicted as having you know, the sound and the essence of the mantra embodies all the divine qualities of the Buddhas, the body, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So again, I just touched on that. So our mind, you know, once it's liberated from karma and delusion, it has this quality to achieve another type of body that doesn't experience old age, sickness, death. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? You know, nobody wants to get old. Nobody wants to get old and or be sick or be, you know, or experience, you know, any kind of discomfort, you know. So the body, the Buddha, is something that is achievable because we have Buddha nature, and one of the qualities is it's eternally youthful. Because there's no experience of aging and death. And on top of that, for all sentient beings, it's a body that rides on a subtle wind that pervades, and it's made of wisdom, and it pervades all phenomena, it pervades all beings. So it can see the minds of all beings, it's in touch with all beings, it can emanate different bodies. You know, once our mind's out of the kind of clinging mind of duality or just perceiving ourselves in this individualistic way, when we're free of that, we're able to, and we're liberated for that, then we're able to develop different bodies, not just one body. We can manifest many bodies at many times to benefit sentient beings. The red A symbolizes or embodies the Buddha's speech, the pure speech of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Ah. It also embodies, you know, here in Vajrapani, we have a set of all the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Kangyur, everything he taught when he was alive. It's about, I don't know, we have at least 100 texts, Tibetan texts. So they are kind of, you know, in a very succinct and the most subtle form is the speech of the Buddha, you know, all that into one. There was 84,000 sets of teachings that the Buddha taught when he was in this world. And then he also manifested in different places and taught the Vajrayana vehicle. So all these incredible sets of teachings all manifest in the in this single syllable. So it has that kind of power. And also the quality of the Buddha's speech is that one of the qualities is that, you know, I think I mentioned before, it has this power that when we, you know, even when we speak to a holy being, you know, certainly myself, when Lama Zopa Rinpoche spoke to me, it had this power that you don't get from other people, you know. I mean, you would listen, you would hear, and you would remember what Rinpoche said, because Rinpoche would only generally speak if it was going to be meaningful for other beings, you know. That's a bodhisattva. Everything they say has a meaning for other beings. And they're able to speak different languages and communicate to beings in ways that just fit their mind, you know, because they can see the minds of all beings. So it's unbelievable, it's incredible. And all this we can study in greater detail, you know. But again, we have that ability, we have that seed to be able to develop that kind of speech. The home is basically what I touched on in the meditation, the non-dual wisdom, this wisdom that realizes emptiness, that realizes the deep interconnectedness of our all beings, you know, how we're deeply interconnected to all beings, and also that sees that nothing has this kind of dualistic nature, you know. Everything's in this kind of much more subtle nature of emptiness, shunyata. So that's a wisdom that we're trying to develop, and that's what is embodied in the home, that deep, sort of vast, profound wisdom of the Buddhas. So just by chanting, no, we don't need to know, even if we don't know any mantras, just chanting these three, you know, Om Hum, it plants very powerful seeds to achieve the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. It's very powerful just doing that mantra, Om Hum, Om Hum. So there was a chat. Let me see, is that a question? Get to the chat. Just to clap. Okay, thank you. Thank you. It's Saturday, okay, good. So just to finish off, just in a very brief way, we will do a bit of Tara practice on the practice day as well. So I'll just go into that a bit more, but just, you know, roughly the Tara mantra. Tari, each part, you know, Om we talked about already, Tari. So again, Tara has this the whole mantra has this kind of liberating quality. Liberating from fears, from obstacles. Tari, liberating from, so it's innate in the essence and the quality of the syllables and the sound of the mantra, can liberate us from samsara, true suffering such as birth, old age, sickness and death, suffering and the causes of suffering, the two main causes of suffering that the Buddha taught in the Second Noble Truth. So that's something, the Four Noble Truths, some of us might know just off the top of our head, Bay and Urs, I'm sure they know off the top of their head what the Four Noble Truths are. But as we go through this module, that's something we definitely want to just get, you know, what are the Four Noble Truths? How do they affect me? You know, because that's our experience right now. It's kind of like what our experience is right now, the first two truths, and then where we want to go is the second two truths. We want to cease the first two, and we want to develop the path. That's the last one, you know. So we need to, you know, the whole path is about recognizing these four truths. The truth is suffering, the truth of the cause is suffering, the truth is cessation, and the truth of the path. Realizing and starting to integrate these into your being, you know, getting experiences of these. That's what the whole Lam Rim's about. Getting a deeper and deeper experience of these four truths so they become our truth, you know, we are oneness with those truths. Our consciousness is only those truths. It's nothing else, you know, it's transformed into those four truths. Or sometimes they're called truths for Arya beings. And Arya is someone who has had a direct perception of emptiness, of their ultimate nature. So for Aryas, they are their truths. Sometimes we all talk about this is my truth, that's my truth. So for Aryas, that's their truth. It's not just a truth, it's like a whole like download of experience, They're experiencing that moment to moment, second to second for Arya beings. And it's incredibly joyful, by the way. I mean, it's just like pure liberation, It's like there's no, once, I mean, you become an Arya when you have a direct perception, then you have to, again, a little bit keep practicing that till you have familiarity. But, it's bliss, it's joy, it's freedom, and we a deep connectedness with all beings. So the other thing, the other thing that's important to, just when we're on the finishing off the kind of mantra prayer section, is that so Rinpoche always used to say this, one of the kind of problems I think in Western society, because we're not a community-based society, when you live in the East, when you come from Eastern cultures, family and community. Now, some of us still might be very family and community orientated, but generally as a culture, we sort of moved away from that a lot. So a lot of people feel loneliness, or they feel alone. So these practices, what happens is if you start to develop these practices of taking refuge, reciting mantras, maybe we start to develop a connection with a spiritual teacher, with a sangha, it starts to help us to feel, first of all, part of a community, but on a deeper level with the practices, we start to feel some sort of blessing and protection coming. And we start to even feel like there's some connection there going with the Buddhas, especially when you come to places like Vajrapani. Sometimes you can feel like some of the statues might be communicating with you a little bit, or, you go to the prayer wheel. There's a kind of very powerful energy here at some of the centres where we feel it's blessed, where we feel like there's some subtle level of communication going on that I can connect with, and I feel protected by that. I feel guided by that, supported by that. So that can happen just in our daily sitting practice in our prayers. Sometimes people have a different name for it, like the universe. The universe is protecting me, or I spent some years in Fintorn, so that's how they would call it, because it's a more secular community. So they would say, I'm being guided by the universe. So when we start to develop, if we decide we want to take refuge and really sort of get more serious in our spiritual practice, we can start to feel, it's important that we start to connect and feel this sort of blessing or protection or presence of beings or energy or something in our practice, or over our teachers, if we start to develop closer connections with our teacher. That's very important for us to start to feel that, and it starts to cut through kind of maybe deeper feelings of loneliness and feeling detached, because really those feelings come from our own mind. It comes from unfortunately our ignorance, that just it makes us very isolated in ourselves. Their delusions can make us feel extremely isolated, and especially in the West, when we're not a community-based society. So that's something, hopefully, as you develop in your practice, some of you already might have a strong feeling of that we feel this guidance, this kind of protection from more subtle beings around us, or from our teacher, we feel guided in that way. So we'll go over the last few things kind of quickly. So the benefits, what I wanted to ask was, before we go into me talking about it, maybe that references you. Oh, it was called Fintorn community in Scotland. It's quite a world famous community. And it was started around the late 60s by some kind of hippies. And, they weren't hippies after that, but they could communicate with nature spirits, the founders. So it was kind of set up around communication with nature spirits and some connection with Christianity and God, but it was always kind of more of a secular type community. It still is. And they also grow a lot of vegetables there because they harmonize with the nature spirits, and they're kind of famous for having an overabundance of vegetables because what we call the nagas, the spirits are happy, so they help them to have a very kind of full garden. Some of you might have heard of Findhorn. I'm going there actually. I'm leaving to go to Scotland, so I'm going to visit there. We have a small Buddhist group in Scotland, just a study group. So I'm going there to lead a short weekend retreat. But it's quite a special little community. Oh, it's quite a big community. Findhorn, it's like F-I-N-D, like find, and horn. And then you can Google that and you will find it online. So benefits of meditation in everyday life. So maybe would any of us like to share, those of you who are already doing meditation or who are just, starting or whatever, what do you think? What do you feel? How has it benefited your life? Maybe we can do, either you can share on the chat or I'll put up the full view. Would anyone like to share what they feel, how it's benefited you? Either just this class or just generally since when you started. Yes, Susan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I can share kind of my first experience that kind of started this journey for me, which is I was just in like kind of emotional relational pain, and I meditated, and after like the 30-minute session, it was gone. And I had never had that experience before. And so it was so intriguing to kind of, as I'm now learning, discover, these qualities of mind and to really shift my perspective and kind of my understanding of self, and in relationship to other things.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else like to share? Any hands or anything in the chat? Susie, yeah.
I'll share. I've found that after doing meditation, if I'm getting a regular practice going, that I'm not as reactive and that I have a little space between thought and action. So I don't need to follow my thoughts as much. Like if I have a thought, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thought, rather than letting it kind of spin me out or like continuing down the path of the story. So what ends up happening is I just feel more peaceful because I'm not kind of spinning out on stories, and then my relationships are better because I have a pause between what I think and what I say to evaluate a little bit. So yeah, lots of practical things that happen with meditation. Practical benefits.
Yeah, definitely improvement in relationships is a big thing, isn't it? I mean, it's a good advertisement if your partner's not meditating, but you are, and they feel that you are improving, then they're only going to support your spiritual practice, aren't you? Especially for some partners, it might feel a bit odd if you're Buddhist or doing these things and they're not, but they start to see, not immediately, but over time, there's a positive shift in your sort of personality or way of dealing things. That's like one of the best adverts, our actions are the best advert for meditation. Anyone else? Oh, we're good. Oh, Zan, did you put your hand up, Zan? Yes, thank you, yes.
Is it
Zan?
unmute myself.
How do you say your name, Zan or Zan?
Zan.
Zan, okay, right.
Yeah, that's fine. I've been finding it very helpful when dealing with my animals. So I live on a ranch here in Gilroy, so we have probably 10 retired show horses, and then a little hobby farm of pigs and goats and chickens and ducks and whatnot, right? And so from time to time, it's hard to, especially I have a little 5-year-old pit bull, so he can be very strong-willed, know exactly what he wants, and he's learned that he can be vocal and try to begin to communicate with you. And I have lately, unfortunately, been very reactive to him. So he's kind of like in a teenager mode, right? And a couple of weeks ago, my partner taught me what looked like I was daydreaming. I was standing there I had the leash of my dog and I was kind of staring off. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was kind of quiet at first. I didn't say anything. And she asked me again. I was like, "I'm meditating." She's like, "Why are you meditating?" I said, "Because I am so frustrated with not being able to communicate with this dog or understand what he's trying to communicate to me." And understanding that a lot of my energy is getting translated at that very moment. So him understanding that there's frustration on my part and him not understanding that, and me with my frustration with him and not understanding him, kind of going back to what she said a minute ago, is having that moment of pause and not letting it take over to where I'm now creating a negative situation for him and he doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
So it is parlaying into relationships,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not being a parent that is extremely reactive to something your kid is telling you. My youngest is 28 and she's just as opinionated as my 5-year-old dog. So it's like not jumping in and trying to course correct something. Let
Yes.
her continue to go down that path and letting it marinate with me for a little while.
Yes.
So it is definitely causing pause and patience, and a little bit of reflection on how you interact with everybody, for sure.
Wonderful. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I mean, because certainly we all need more patience, and that's what we can say. That's what if meditation's bringing that, that's wonderful, and yeah, just more in personal reflection, before we
Sure.
say something that we regret, it's harder to pull it back, it's a
Yeah.
lot easier just not to say it. So one of the sayings is, I think it's Lama Tisha, but maybe Urs, you might remember one of these great lamas. I think it was Lama Tisha said, when you're on your own, now let me just pull it up now. When you're on your own, you have to watch your mind, That's your job. But when you're with others, isn't it? When you're with others, Urs, am I getting this right? You have to watch your speech. There's a kind of nicer way of doing it, but it's just, I don't have the whole quote there. But basically our job is, it's true, if you really get into spiritual practice and you get more and more sincere that you want to change your mind, when you're on your own, we're not just spacing out and everything's okay and do. No, we're watching our mind, what's coming up in our mind, what junk's coming up, just being on our own, being distracted by too many things. So we watch our mind when we're on our own. But when we're with others, we have to watch our actions there. I mean, most of us, we're body and speech when we're around others. That's where we be careful. That's where the mindfulness is, with the body and speech. And if we watch our mind, the more we watch our mind and what's going on in our mind, we get familiar with that when we're on our own. When we're with others, we'll have more power to watch our speech and our actions, our body, that are maybe more harmful, because we've practiced a little bit on our own. And, as you said, you stopped, you were in the middle of something and you stopped. And I was going to mention that later. Meditation isn't just being on the cushion, not at all. It's very much like this mindfulness throughout our day. I don't know if I like the term century, but but they do use this. I think it's Shantideva uses this term, being like a century, for your own mind. That term century, like you're on guard, you're a guard for your own mind. But we have to do it in a sort of, for Westerners, we can't be too tight with that either. There has to be a sort of gentleness and spaciousness, but being aware, developing this mindfulness and awareness and, day to day of what's going on in our mind and reeling it in, when it's just not in helpful situations, when we're on a dialogue about something that's just not benefiting anybody, let alone yourself, we get into these dialogues just when we're on our own because we think, oh, it's okay, I can just spin my mind. But it's part of meditation practice is also reeling in the mind when it's there, just being when you're on your own. If you do that, then when you sit and meditate as well, the mind will have more strength. We're just trying to get to reduce the familiarity with negative states of mind gradually. That's what meditation's all about. Okay, so just to run through the rest of the materials, because it's already 8:05. So Yeah, as some of you shared, thank you for sharing. Some of the benefits of sustained meditation, well, as some of you shared, it improves our attention and, I mean, performance certainly in just daily activities and daily life. And also, you could say a performance in our relationships, because our relationships with our dear and loved ones is like so important, but certainly in our work environment and everything, meditation brings about more clarity of mind, more concentration, less, gradually over time, less emotional spillage in our lives, and certainly as His Holiness always says, even science has proved, or medicine has proved, the medical world has proved that they've done some studies, and people who talk about I, me, my, they're more likely to get heart attacks. People who are more very self-focused, who get angry easily, upset easily. I mean, it definitely has an effect on our mental and physical health. So there's no question that, as our mind becomes more peaceful and we get a little bit more control over certain negative states of mind, our physical health will improve. Our well-being, our physical well-being will improve. Now, there's another aspect to that when we start to get into purification practices. We can, that's a whole other topic, which we won't this time. But sometimes when we do a lot of purification, we can experience sickness, but that's a good sickness. But that's another module. For now, we can definitely say in a general basic level, our mental and physical health will definitely improve, just by having a calmer mind, having less anger, less desire, attachment, energy. And also there's, and the main, of course, the main benefit is our spiritual development, both temporary in terms, as we were sharing here, in our relationships, in our work environment, and in our health, and also ultimately, if we engage in deeper and deeper spiritual practice, we'll get all the benefits up to enlightenment, So does anyone remember what the three main benefits? So mainly the temporary benefits are in our day-to-day life and with others, we have more, better communication, we're better people. But what are the, we have this consciousness, as we learned in module 1, and of course some of us are still chewing on that one. It's not that we've completely accepted that maybe yet, but we do have Buddha nature. We have this subtle wind mind, subtle consciousness that goes from life to life, So on the basis, just thinking on this basis that reincarnation is, what's happening for us. We've been many places and we're still many places to go, many lives, many forms. So can anyone remember what the three main goals? And again, this will come up in the next module more clearly, but I did touch on them. The three main goals of the spiritual path in terms of the more ultimate benefits. Anyone? I think, what want to hazard a guess? Urs and Bay probably know.
I mean, I would say first a good rebirth, a good next life. That's one of the goals you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the first one. Or Rimshi used to call them the 3 levels of happiness, 3 levels of spiritual happiness. So these are the more ultimate goals, which are connected very much with the Lam Rim, this gradual path to enlightenment. So the first goal, which, as Westerners, that's kind of very foreign to us when we first hear that. What? I'm doing this course to get a good future rebirth? You're joking, I mean, what's that? That doesn't mean anything to me, But don't just throw it out. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just hold it there and keep doing the courses, and maybe it'll start to make some more feeling, and you'll start to feel that. Maybe you do already, but this is the goal. Good future rebirth. And then the next one, what's the next one, Urs?
The next one would be like personal liberation, nirvana.
Yes.
To be out of suffering.
Yeah. So that's the freedom from, we were talking in the Tara practice, when we get out of suffering and the causes of suffering altogether, we no longer experience rebirth and death and all these things, our mind's liberated for that. And then the third one.
When finally it's Buddhahood and full enlightenment.
Yeah, so that's the third aim in these Lam Rim practices. is that we would, you know, completely fully develop this Buddha nature to become a bodhisattva, saint, and all the way up to becoming Buddha himself. So that is possible in this spiritual path. All these are possibilities. All these are places that we can traverse to if we create the causes. It's just we have to create the inner causes and conditions. So this is the benefits at temporary all the way up to enlightenment and meditation. So there's all these incredible benefits. So general advice on sustaining. So again, just, you know, it's not easy keeping up. Would we agree? It's not easy doing a meditation practice. It's not easy keeping up a practice, you know, when we've got family or, you know, other partners maybe who don't, or we're busy in our work. Do I get some nods, or we think it's easy, or it's not easy, you know. So we have to be quite skillful with ourselves. If we understand, we feel like this is something really beneficial I want to do and continue, we need to figure out a way to do it, you know, to support ourselves, you know, to really nurture ourselves in that way. So we keep up this kind of discipline of spiritual practice. So this is general advice. We'll go on to that other part in a minute, sorry. So general advice is, remember, so sustaining it and also just being happy with what's going on. So remember that change is gradual, you know. So it's not that, you know, sometimes, as we say, we do a practice and then all of a sudden there's some big shift, you know, and then we might do a practice for a while and we don't feel any difference for some time. So we have to kind of just, this is where one of the perfections comes in, of having joyous effort, you know, and also having a community to support you. You have friends who do practice, you can practice and talk to about, and maybe share a little bit of your practice and see what's going on with them as well. So it's encouraging, and it's also helping you to keep up with your own practice. There's a story of, in terms of kind of not getting defeated by our practice, I always like to share the story of a Sangha. And this is more of an example of someone who didn't get discouraged and kept meditating. So a Sangha was this great, he was in there around the, I don't know, I think he was around the 6th or 7th century, maybe it was slightly later. So he was a yogi, he had studied at Nalanda, this university in India, a famous university where great scholars and pandits and yogis came out of, like Nagarjuna and great enlightened masters. So he studied there, and then he wanted to go off, as many of them did at that time, and meditate, you know, and meditate on what he'd studied. And his particular wish was to have a vision of Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha is the future Buddha that will come in some thousands of years after this Buddha's teachings are finished. He will be the next Buddha to descend into this realm, into this human realm. But anyway, he wanted to have a vision of Maitreya Buddha and receive teachings. So he said, okay, so he went off to the cave and he decided, I'm going to do 6 years retreat. You know, I'm going to meditate for 6 years. He was reciting the Maitreya Buddha mantra. He was praying to Maitreya Buddha and doing other practices. And after 6 years, he didn't have any experience. He didn't see Maitreya. Nothing happened. And he thought, okay, well, it's just not happening, you know. So he walked out, he started to walk, he came out of his cave. He says, I'm just going to get, you know, there's no point in going on. It's just not, I'm not having any luck here, you know. So he came out of his cave. He was walking down the hill out of his cave, and he saw a man dipping. He saw, he saw someone rubbing a huge iron pole with a cloth. You know, just kind of rubbing this huge thick pole with a cloth. And he said to the man, well, what are you doing? And he says, I'm trying to make a needle. And then a Sangha thought, well, if he's got the patience and perseverance to just rub that thick piece of iron and hope to have a needle at the end of it, surely I can persevere with my meditation and work away at my delusions, you know, and maybe there'll be some outcome. If he's just doing it for that, you know, a temporary benefit of just having a needle, I mean, I'm trying to get enlightened here, so surely I can put more effort. So he walked back up the hill, went back to his cave, did another 3 years, and he's like, nah, I'm still not getting this experience with Maitreya Buddha. He's just not coming to me. He's not appearing. I'm going to give up. So he walks down the hill again and he bumps into another man who was dipping a feather in water and stroking it on a rock. And this man was next to his house and the rock was in front of his window. It was blocking the sunlight from his window. And he said to the man, well, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm trying to rub down the rock because I want to get sunlight to come into the window. And he was using a feather, trying to rub away at the rock, you know. And he's like, well, I mean, if he can just has all that patience and perseverance to rub a rock with a feather, you know, and hope that, you know, it's going to eventually go very small so he can get sunlight into his house. If he's doing it for that temporary benefit, then surely I can put more effort to get enlightened and see this vision of Maitreya and receive teachings. I mean, that's a much more noble cause. So I should go and put more effort. So he walked back up the hill. 3 years later, he's like, okay, I'm really done. I'm finished now. Nothing's happening. I'm not seeing Maitreya Buddha. You know, I'm done. So he walks down the hill. He didn't bump into any other men rubbing rocks and feathers, and he didn't see any of that. But what he came across was this dog who was, his whole legs were all like, he was crippled. So his whole back end, he couldn't walk properly, and he was really aggressive and angry, barking at everyone. And he had maggots all in his back end, you know, all his flesh was open and there was these maggots eating his flesh, and you could see the dog was starving because it could barely walk. So he felt this spontaneous compassion for the dog. He was like, oh my God, how can I help this dog? It's suffering so much. So he said, and it's hungry, you know, and I don't have anything to feed it. So he cut a bit of his flesh off and fed it to the dog. But then he thought, well, what about the maggots? The maggots are eating the dog, and, you know, it's suffering from the maggots. And he says, I need to try and get the maggots out. But he didn't want to use his hands because he felt like the maggots are so small, he might harm the maggots. So he's like, well, I think I'm going to have to take them out with my tongue. So he started to go like this with his tongue and take the maggot out. And he was just about to like grab a maggot, and then he didn't feel the maggot, and he opened his eyes and there was Maitreya Buddha right in front of him. He just appeared and he was like completely shocked. And he's like, he's like, where were you? You know, I've been meditating for 12 years. And he said, well, you didn't have the karma to see me. He said, I was in your cave all the time. And he said, you know, Maitreya Buddha showed him his robes. And he said, look, there's some spittle on my robes where you spat. I was sitting in the corner of your cave, and sometimes you would, you know, clear your throat or whatever, and you spat on me. And there it is there, you know, on the robe, something like that, you know. So, so he said, you see, I was in your cave, but you couldn't see me. You didn't have the karma. You hadn't purified your mind enough. So, okay, he's like, well, I'm not sure about this. Asanga still wasn't sure. So he said, well, let's go down to the village. He was on his way down to the local village. He says, and he took Maitreya Buddha on his back, and he said, I'm going to see if other people can see you. So he took him on his shoulders, and he's walking through the village. And he's like, look, here's Maitreya Buddha. And everybody thought Asanga was crazy because nobody could see Maitreya Buddha. One lady, they said, who had purer karma, saw a dead corpse of a dog or a crippled dog, some sort of dog on his shoulder, because her mind was a little bit purer, but everybody else didn't see anything, and they thought he was crazy. So he, like, Sangha accepted, okay, you must be Maitreya Buddha. And, you know, he had purified his karma so much that he had this vision of Maitreya Buddha. And the dog was Maitreya Buddha, and actually the two men rubbing the rocks and the metal pole were also Maitreya Buddha. But Maitreya Buddha manifested those men to encourage him to keep going with his practice. You know, so this is so again, it's just a little bit of, you know, what's really good sometimes when we get, you know, if we're interested, is to read, you know, as we get more involved in our practice, read life stories of practitioners who put a lot of effort. It's very inspiring to, if you ever get a chance to do a short retreat, or even, I don't know if you've heard of Venerable Tenzin Palmo. She's a female, she's Western, and she met Buddhism in her 20s, and she did a lot of meditation in a cave. She's got a book called Cave in the Snow, and it talks about her life story of meditating. So some of us might not do that, but it gives a lot of inspiration when you read life stories of beings who put a lot of perseverance, and it makes us even do a little bit, you know, when you think, well, if they did that, I can surely do my morning meditation, you know. you know, it kind of gives that juice and inspiration to your practice. Or reading about these little stories from past practitioners who put so much energy in, you know, it gives, somehow we get fed by that. So that's one thing, you know, just one idea, sustaining your practice, like hearing about other people, seeing others, or even within your Sangha, within friends. It's like, wow, they're so inspiring, and rejoice, you know, when you see other people practicing, and that gives us energy. That feeds us, you know, for our own practice. So another thing in terms of sustaining a practice is to try and make a commitment to a morning and or an evening practice. And one good way to do that is to join online classes. If you find it difficult, especially at night, it can be quite difficult to meditate. So I know that at Land of Medicine Buddha, they offer these evening purification practices led by my friend, nun friend, Venerable Katie. And they also lead morning meditations that are guided. I think it's around 7 or 8 in the morning. So that can also be a way to help, you know, support us in our practice, to do online practices. And also and yeah, that's your general advice, to always dedicate whatever you do, no matter big or small, try to always rejoice, you know, be happy with what you've done. It doesn't mean that on top of that, we make a little bit more commitment. Maybe we've done a month and we did some, and then think, well, we want to do a bit more. So in baby steps, adding in a little bit more, but always to be, you know, to feel like, wow, really happy about what we've achieved, even if we think our meditation didn't go well in the morning. But it doesn't matter. You sat, you were with yourself, you did something. It's all, you know, creating that positive energy. It's all developing that habit of sitting and being with yourself, and you know, doing some kind of mind training, thought transformation, whatever it is, you know, practice to work and develop our mind on the path. So this is just really reiterating from Kathleen MacDonald's How to Meditate book, which again is a really good. It's a very good book, you know, because it does go through all the different types of meditations we've been over in more detail. And again, it gives you more hints and advices on how to sustain a practice, how to do a practice, how to, you know, how to keep going, you know, and some of the obstacles sometimes you can come across, and it gives you some help with those as well. But it's definitely, yeah, it's just, we want to try and figure out a way where we can keep ourselves going on our practice. That's the main thing, you know, being skillful with that. Which can be, as we say, making a clear decision to do it, not having a split mind. Well, maybe I'll sit tomorrow, maybe I won't. You know, that's what we come across. I certainly came across that. I mean, I still have it. But certainly when I was in the very early days, when I was starting to develop a practice, I could feel like my mind was split-minded. There's a big part of your mind that says, no, I'm not going to bother, you know, I've got this to do or that to do. It's almost like you're dealing with these two parts of yourselves. Anyone else experience that? It's like one part wants it, and the other part's like, no, but and it's quite difficult to manage when you haven't got the habit, because you've got these two minds. Once you've got the habit, that kind of goes. You know, it's almost like you wake up, you don't have a habit in the morning, will I brush my teeth or won't I? Will I wash my face? We don't go into that, do we, in the morning? I mean, we brush our teeth, we wash our face, we have a shower, whatever it is. We've got our habits in the morning, and we don't think, maybe I will, maybe I won't. You know, we kind of just do them automatically. So similarly, that can be the case with meditation over time. You don't get up and think, will I meditate? Won't I meditate? It's just, that's just what you do. It's just part of your daily routine. That will come over time. But to get that habit takes a little bit of, like any habits, like going to the gym or something, you know. Once you've got the habit, you stop thinking about it. But it takes quite a determination to develop the habit. So we have to bring around our strong determination. And if we're not managing on our own, then to go to classes, I mean, we're very fortunate to have all these online facilities now, you know. I mean, even 10 years ago, to join a meditation class, you always had to go to the centre. You had to drive, go to the centre. Some people didn't have a centre close by, you know. So now we also support you through online programs and practices. So we're very lucky to have all these facilities available to us. What else do I want to say? So yeah, just to kind of finish, some other ideas just to keep your practice going could be to have a does anyone have a meditation journal, diary? Let me just see. Oh, Terry, great. Yeah. You find it helps, Terry?
Yeah, I've been using that as a method for a long time. I
Mm-hmm.
do find it very, very, very useful. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I write a little bit and sometimes I write a lot. It just all depends on what happens during the meditation and what I have, whatever the outcome is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And do you go over it from time to time as well? You go back and have a look and see what you wrote.
I do. And what is really astonishing is like, oh, I don't feel that way anymore. Look what happened. And it's those tiny increments of growth.
Yeah.
Baby steps. Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I remember when that was so hard.
Yeah, good. So that's also
Yeah.
nice. You can rejoice. Very good. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah. So we can do that. We can. What I would encourage as well, because as I say, I've also been a working nun. You know, I haven't been somebody just off in the mountains and retreat and all that thing. I mean, of course, I do have time when I do retreat, but one nice thing to do, if it's possible, is to kind of section off, as we're going to do in a week's time. We're going to do this half day of retreat at Land of Medicine Buddha. But also, as you develop in your practice, you might think, oh, wait, okay, tomorrow morning I don't have any commitments. Or it's better to even plan a little bit. What's your week looking like? Can I have a half day where I just do some meditation? It doesn't have to be all meditation. It can be reading, meditation, study, listening to a class. We devote a half day to that, on some kind of regular basis. It doesn't have to be a whole day. It could be like, okay, I've only got 2 work. I can do, a couple of hours of really good practice and meditation and combined with some reading or, so that's very good to kind of give some more energy and depth to your practice. Group retreats, of course, we run a lot of group retreats here. Ocean of Compassion also, and Land of Medicine Buddha also run group retreats. So, definitely, I would, if you have the opportunity, that's wonderful to do that, to be guided by teachers and to be, Vajrapani here, we have a very good retreat environment here for practice. Most people, when they come, they just feel their mind kind of settles, So to be in an environment that's kind of blessed, by other practitioners, it really is a great support and you can get a little bit more depth in your practice that way, giving a lot of energy to go back to your life. Becoming part of a Sangha community, regular online teachings, developing and of course, maybe over time, we develop a deeper connection with a spiritual teacher. And that also is very inspirational. That's one of the biggest inspirations in this tradition, really, is our connection with our Sangha and our spiritual teacher to help support us through our practice. And I wanted to mention as well, and I think that's what Zan was saying, it's not just that meditation is sitting on the cushion. It's also that we have so many different ways that you can meditate or develop your mind in this tradition through prostrating, walking meditation, circumambulations, going through around holy objects, making offerings. There's many ways, many types of practices in this tradition that develop the mind. It's not just sitting on the cushion with, some analysis or some placement meditation. There's a lot of other very profound practices in this tradition that are also meditations, which, as we go through the modules, maybe we'll get more insight and a little bit of practice with some of these as well. So it's good to explore. If we want to deepen and develop, maybe over time we explore these a little bit more as well. Any other questions? Because we're on 8:30 now. I did want to, what I wanted to do was, anyway, quickly, any more questions? Quick 2, and then we'll try and finish up in the next 5 minutes. I don't like to keep you over. At what stage? Oh, well, certainly, there's not a limit, there's not any limitation, or you can't come to retreat until you've achieved the 5th stage of Shine. It's not like that, you know. You can come and do retreat anytime. Does that answer your question? Of course, there's different levels of retreat. You know, there's beginner retreats, there's intermediate retreats, and there's advanced retreats. So definitely, if you're thinking about coming and doing a retreat, either on, you know, in a group or on your own, it's good to check, maybe get advice from a teacher, or, you know, I would be happy to help you as well. But, you know, so that you kind of, you know, would do a retreat that would fit for where you are. If you want to do a retreat on your own, then it's, you know, you can do like maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours if you're very new, you know, on some of the materials that you've covered for 1 and 2. But again, that can also be something that you can get a little bit of advice from and help from a teacher, or, you know, myself or one of these teachers could help definitely if you wanted to do on your own. That's no problem. I can suggest a sort of schedule for you, you know. But if you can join in the one on in a week's time, just over a week, then that gives you some idea as well of like a few hours how you can do some retreat, you know, some practice. Okay, was there another question? So I think what I wanted to just finish with, certainly a dedication, but let's just spend, again, during the practice day, will be a little bit of time for questions as well. And there's also going to be, how many of us are doing the test? Maybe you can, let me see, that's 1, 2, 3. I'll just, is it 4, 5? Some people don't have their camera on. What? Yeah, at least 6 or 7 of us, great, are going to do the test. That's great. And so you will probably get that next week. I'll put that together and I'll have Isabella send it out to you next week. And you'll have a good week or so to do it. There's no immediate hurry, but I'll let you know the timeline. And then during the practice days, there'll also be a bit of time for my sharing, question, answer. How many of us are going to try and join for the practice day? 1, 2, 3, 4. Isabella, you'll be there. Yeah, so good. There's a few of us coming for that as well. And of course, if you can't come in person, then we'll be doing it online. I think that'll be right, Isabella. Yeah, it's on Zoom too. So yeah, so that's yeah, I'm trying to hurry up here. There was a few other things, but generally, well, yeah, I'll get that out. So for the next module as well, there's a lovely nun, Venerable Pema. She will be teaching the next module on presenting the path. So I think going forward, it'll mostly be she and I alternating with teaching the modules, as I understand it. Venerable Yonten's not going to be available for so many of these modules because she's quite busy with her other teachings in Portland. So I think mostly it'll be Venerable Pema and I going through, sort of alternating the modules. And Pema's a very beautiful nun, very, very good-hearted. Her name is Pema, which means lotus. And it's kind of like she has this kind of heart, you know, lotus heart, you know, very, very warm-hearted. So you'll feel that from her when you receive the teachings. And she has a background, even before she became a nun, she was a teacher. So she's got a very good background in teaching. She's also taught some of the courses. We run 10-day courses at Copan, and she's been involved in teaching some of the Copan courses as well. So she's a very skilled teacher and very good-hearted. So I think you'll enjoy her teachings as well. And I think I'll be back for module 4 probably around November time or something like that. So October, November, I think. So let's just finish what I wanted to do just before we do the dedications. Let's just spit. So sorry, it's finishing about 10 minutes late tonight. It's hard to wrap everything up, but let's just, did you have something, Isabella? You put your hand up? No?
No, I just went, it's okay, it's okay.
Oh, it's okay, yeah. So
We can take it.
just let's get us in a little bit of space, and I just want us to think about, you know, over the course of the weeks, what we feel we can sort of take away with us, you know, in our pockets, so to speak, you know, what's been helpful to us. Is there some key things that pop up in the mind? Just bring them to mind and just sit with them for a moment, you know, what we can bring away for these series of teachings to kind of inspire us and nurture us throughout our spiritual practice, our meditation practice. And then generally in the Buddhist tradition, you know, we would say that there's not really any other more meaningful thing than to use our human rebirth, you know, this precious human life that's quite rare, you know, to have the freedoms that we have in our lives. There's no more meaningful way than to use it to develop our mind on the spiritual path, you know, to reduce the delusions in the mind, the negativities, and to nurture the positive aspects of our mind, to nurture and develop them. There's not really any more meaningful way, because that much more we are good-hearted. We and use that to develop, you know, these higher qualities of bodhicitta, and that much more we can develop our wisdom that gradually, you know, brings us out of samsara, birth and death. That much more we can benefit others. You know, it's our mind development that really benefits others. Temporarily, because we're good company, people enjoy us, we don't harm others. And ultimately, because we're able to liberate ourselves with the bondage of birth and death, and also gradually become these kind of bodhisattvas, you know, these beings have control over birth and death and can benefit others to get out of suffering and the causes of suffering. So how wonderful it is we've done this course. We're starting to gather the tools to learn more deeply how to work with our minds, you know, the workshop is our minds, you know, so we need the tools. So this course is helping us to develop the tools to work on our minds, be better people in this world. And the world really needs it, you know, people need our good-heartedness. And besides that, they need our wisdom, correct wisdom, you know, wisdom that helps and doesn't harm. So just we try to really rejoice in our course, in this course, in our efforts, listening, reflecting and meditating, and dedicate it for the higher good, our higher benefit, and the benefit of all beings to become awakened, you know, up to the state of Buddhahood. So we recite together, due to this virtue, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigrated beings without exception to that state. May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. And for the long lives of our spiritual teachers, His Holiness and all our teachers, incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and patience and presence. And I look forward to seeing you, quite a few of you, for the course in a week's 10 days' time. And of course, if there's any other questions or you can't make it, I know that you have my email address. So if anybody's got personal questions or anything, you can always get in touch with me through email. Isabella has that. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, there's one more chat. Is that something? Okay. No, thank you. Okay, Kelly. Okay, good night, good evening. Thank you.